The following is a presentation of TFNN. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Namaste and welcome to Mindful Living, everybody. It's Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien, and we want to help you get healthy, feel good, real good, and live life to the fullest every single day.
Yes, indeed.
And our special guest right here in the studio with us today is Mr. I want to call you Doctor because the doctor is in the house.
I like that.
Mr. Nico De Haan, who is the founder and president of the Performance Training Center, Personal Training Center in Bel Air Bluffs, host of Living a Primal Lifestyle right here on TFNN, paleo expert, the list goes on, so be patient, jiu-jitsu champion, and at 69 years old is training 20-year-olds. The things this man can do is unbelievable. So welcome to the show,
Well,
Nico.
thank you. Such a great introduction.
And I just might add, it's my lucky day. I'm flanked by two very handsome, fit, healthy men. This is going to be a good hour.
It is going to be a great hour. For sure.
So, you know, I wanted to talk with you today because personally I find you very inspiring.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who are not aging very healthfully, very gracefully, or very sexily, and I would say that you've got it down.
Oh,
so,
well, thanks. Well, I'm blushing here. This is you can have me on every
just
week
wait.
if you want.
So what motivates you? How do you do it?
Well, you know, I've always had a perspective in life that if I'm going to get old, and there's a whole story behind me thinking that I'm going to get old and healthy. In fact, I'll just tell you, about 20 years ago I had a dream. And in that dream I was kind of rummaging around in the kitchen. And I look on the refrigerator and there's a big calendar there. And on the calendar the date was 2075, December 2075. And I woke up and I thought, I better get my act together. You know, I said, if I'm going to live to 130, 131, I better be healthy because no way do I want to be in a wheelchair.
Right.
And, you know, I was always very active and I wanted to remain active. And my parents were always active throughout their whole life, and that was my whole inspiration, seeing my parents walking on the beach every single day.
So when you saw 2075, you thought it was real. You're saying,
well,
you get up and you said,
not only did I think it was real, I felt it. I said, okay, that's my goal today.
Cool.
And you know, and if I fall, I've always thought to myself, I'll set myself a goal, and if I fall short, so what?
Yeah, right.
It doesn't really matter.
Oh, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
You know, it's important that you said, you know, if you're going to live to be X, you want to be healthy. You don't want to be in pain or suffering or ill. And if you think about that, a lot of people say, I don't want to live to live forever. You know, I want to go hard and I want to live life to the fullest. But you want to be able to get out of bed every day. You want to be able to do the things that you love. You know, so it's such a really good point that who wants to live forever? But, you know, we're all going to age, but you might as well.
It's kind of the dream. One of my heroes when I was like 9 years old was Peter Pan, and he was going to be a boy forever.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's great, because my boyhood was just the best years I ever had.
What happened to Peter Pan? Did he die?
No, he's still
he's still a boy?
He's still a boy. In my
Forever
head he is, anyway, for sure.
Yeah, right.
I'm still a girl in my mind.
Exactly. Yeah, well, you know, in our minds we really don't change.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, it's a head game.
Yeah.
You don't, there's no doubt.
You're right, Tom.
Yeah.
It is a head game, and when I look in the mirror, I still see that young guy.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. The power of positive thinking. It's so
that,
powerful.
and then you have to kind of physically make it happen. So my dad always says, you know, the journey is one step at a time.
Sure.
So whatever your goal is, take the step every day. Just even if it's a small step, it doesn't matter. And even a rest is a step. And that's, I think, the important thing to remember. A lot of people, I had a guy in there today in my studio talking about working out with me, and I said, what's your workout? He said, well, I do this and this and this and this, and I thought, my God, this guy is so active. Maybe he's not resting enough. I don't know. You know? So you can be too active, too, and try, you know, everybody's trying to search for that magic thing.
Right.
And in the news and in everywhere you read about exercise is the key to losing weight and being healthy. I think it's the other way around. I think food is the first key.
Yes.
Healthy is to help you along the ride.
Right.
No doubt you have to be healthy.
And there's no magic bullet. That's the other side.
The magic bullet
one
is doing
step
something and remaining tight to your, you know, your inner self, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
You know?
that's so important. You have to tune in and listen to what the body needs. Rest, as you said, is so important because, you know, I listen to your and Paige's show. It's on every Friday at noon on TFNN.com, and it's called Living a Primal Lifestyle. Last Friday, you guys were talking about not resting, and particularly with food, not resting the digestive system. It's the same idea, you know.
No doubt about it.
Eating too much. If you leave your car engine running all the time, it's eventually going to die out. Well, the body's engine needs rest also, and
It
so
does.
part of that is you have to tune into that and take rest when you need it.
Yeah.
I also love what you said on that show is, and what you just mentioned is exercise should be viewed the same way. I mean, if you're constantly exercising to a point of just burn and pushing yourself so hard, that can actually be detrimental. Is that the point you were making?
Well, that is the point because, you know, exercise is a form of stress. So if you overdo it, what your body's capable, and some days you feel invincible.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go too far, and you really have to listen to your body and kind of pull it back a little bit.
Right.
You know, when I train at jiu-jitsu, I train 4 or 5 days a week. A lot of times I'll take it very easy. A lot of times I press it harder, and you kind of have to see how you feel afterwards and then decide what you're going to do the next time.
Yeah, the rhythm's a good deal.
Yeah, it really is.
And it goes up and down.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being in tune with that. That's like being in tune with the universe, going with the flow instead of against it.
Yeah.
And folks, I had the opportunity to work out with Nico this morning. It was so awesome.
very cool.
Oh, it was so cool.
Well, I can compliment you because one of the things I really stress is posture, and because of your
I'm gonna sit
yoga
up straighter.
background, because of your yoga background, your posture was not only really good but so easy to adjust. When I told you to do a couple of things, it was there.
Thank you.
And you must realize in your practice too that so many people have problems with posture.
So
and posture, folks, is the key to letting your body know what muscles to use when you exercise. If you're in the wrong posture, you're using the wrong muscles.
And you know what's cool is that if you pay attention to posture, it's like, you know, you say in yoga, Ali's yoga class, you know, when we're doing the stomach exercise, say, now you're supposed to do that 24 hours a day. but the reality is that you can keep a good posture 24 hours a day, and that is working out.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
And
becoming aware of it,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, it's the core that has to remain
Yes.
tense.
Right.
And if you think about it, I had somebody tell me many, many years ago, imagine that you're in the Serengeti Plain.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're hunting for some food, but also there's things hunting you.
Right.
So now you're not standing straight up, you're kind of hunched down,
Yeah.
your stomach is tight, and you're very aware of what's going on. That's your daily posture.
See, that's what it's like in Nico's studio, folks, okay? So you come to Nico's studio, you're going to know that you better be ready. No.
Otherwise, he'll be after you.
Well, you know, one of the things I incorporate everything I've learned from jiu-jitsu and from personal training professionals, and I, of course, talk about food a lot.
Sure.
I try to incorporate everything, but my biggest motivation was one day I was taking a shower and I was lifting one leg and washing my foot, and then I lift the other leg, and all of a sudden it doesn't lift as high.
Okay.
And I'm thinking to myself, and I was 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I'm losing it here, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I want. I want that
Right.
flexibility back of just being
Sure.
able to do the normal things, but then go beyond the normal things, because when I think of normal, I think of 10 years old.
Right.
Rolling on the ground.
Right.
You know, if I get jump off my bike and
Right.
fall or whatever and I'm not
Right.
hurt, that's
Right.
the type of thing I
Right.
want to
Right.
do at 100.
Exactly. So
And-
what?
No,
Oh, go ahead.
no.
What are the things that you do to stay fit? So jiu-jitsu,
I do jiu-jitsu. I do strength training once or twice a week.
Okay.
I do a regime of sprinting, usually on a tramp, sometimes outside. And these things are only 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe a minute with a 30-second rest in between. So that workout doesn't last very long, maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
But the strength training, 20, 30 minutes, I'd say I spent more time doing flexibility.
Okay.
Getting ready,
Right.
you know, having my body respond to all the other things that I've done and stretching it back out, because every activity that we do is basically resistant type of movements,
Sure.
which really shortens the muscles. So now we have to lengthen them back out. So when they're in a relaxed position, they're kind of in between.
That's one I was going to say earlier that the thing that I love the most about working out with you this morning, we would do a strength training exercise on the
Yeah,
machines
right.
that you have,
Yep.
and then we would take a break in between each rep and do a stretch for
Yeah.
that part of the body. It felt so good, and it actually helped me relieve some of the pain I had from exercising yesterday.
sure.
So I just feel better.
And it helps the muscles get back into place, because if you're pressing a lot and you don't do any flexibility in between,
Yeah.
your muscles get disoriented. You know, they're under stress.
Yeah, and let's face it, how many people out there exercise and do not stretch?
It's a missing ingredient in most people's workout.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most important,
Yeah, and you can
because
see
it helps you relax.
And it's important for folks to understand, if you're working out, you don't need everything at once, folks, okay? You want to work out for your whole life. And 15 minutes a day, doesn't matter, you know.
That's right.
Because it's good, the helpfulness of that is huge. It's a different ballgame.
To do something every day,
Totally.
even if it's just something little, because that's,
Yeah.
I think, one place people set themselves up for failure is they say, today I'm going to get out and I'm going to run for 30 minutes or
Yeah.
run 12 miles
Sure.
or practice yoga for 90 minutes or do XYZ, and then when you don't meet that goal, you give up. You feel like you failed and you just don't even exercise that day. As you were saying earlier, go out for a 10-minute jog. You know, I like to dance hard in my living room. You know, I can see me
There's
out,
nothing
turn up
wrong
the
with
music.
10 minutes.
Totally.
10
Just
minutes
move.
means the world.
Yeah.
It really does. And I look at exercise as not as sports. I look at exercise not as many other things. I look at exercise as a reorientation of getting the body in its right order.
Right.
So exercise is kind of like yoga does, kind of like Pilates does.
Right.
These are all regimes that help you center yourself, help you be more mindful, certainly,
Right.
because your breathing is all involved in that.
Right.
And then getting the muscles to kind of spring back where they're supposed to be.
Would
and
you-
then you can do other things.
Sure.
Would you say your approach to exercise has changed throughout the years?
Oh, definitely.
So,
yeah.
because again, in the show last Friday, you and Paige compared a sprinter to a marathon runner, where the marathon runner goes hard and far all the time, push. Sprinter goes out for these short, quick workouts. Hopefully, they're both stretching. But so, would you say at one point you were more the marathon hard pushing
definitely.
guy?
I ran for 30 years.
Wow.
So I ran a couple of marathons. I did a lot of mid-range, 10-milers, 6-milers, 15-milers, and that was my whole thing. I felt so healthy and I felt so good. As I got older, I felt the stress of that.
Yes.
So, the warning signs are there, but they're very little. It's kind of like going on a date and you know there's something wrong, but she's so hot. You want to keep on going,
Yes.
but you know the sign, you say, well, I'll get over that part of it. It's kind of like that.
So, actually, when I first met you, you just ended the running then, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because you even dressed differently then.
That's true.
No, like a runner. No,
Yeah.
it totally makes sense.
That's
but
totally America, isn't it?
I just flashed back,
It's so cool.
because when I started working out with Nico, that was in our last office.
Yeah.
And you were in the same building.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's a long time
I was
ago,
just
man.
passing a biker on the way here, and I'm looking at him. He's dressed to the gills like a biker.
Oh, yeah.
He could have been
They
Lance
look good.
Armstrong.
No,
Yeah,
totally.
and so every sport in America,
Yes.
you got to look like it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
And
Yeah.
the clothes don't mean
Fake
that
it.
you're...
I know. But it's normal.
That
That's
is normal. Yeah,
It's normal.
that's our society.
And I think that's a really good point to make, though, is to, as you said, tune in. Yoga teaches the same thing, and understand your body's needs, particularly as we age and change.
Yeah.
Because if you try to keep doing the same things the same way and ignore maybe some signs that your body's or messages your body's giving you, you're just setting yourself up for
Yeah.
injury
Yeah.
and pain.
Where it really changed with me is when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And when was that?
That was a little over 6 years ago, maybe 6.5 years
It was
ago.
a fast 6 years.
Yeah, boy, I'm telling you, it's felt like I just began.
Yeah,
I
right.
cannot wait to hear more about that. So before we go to break, though, we have a health elixir that I brought in for you guys.
Been waiting for this.
Apple, ginger, lemon, a little bit of wheatgrass, and some kale. So it's
Smells
really
wonderful.
green. So I'm going to toast to your health, all of our listeners, your health and wellness.
Big time.
Stay with us. We're going to be back with more from Nico De Haan. We're going to be talking about his black belt in jiu-jitsu. That's a tongue twister for
Yeah,
me.
sure is.
And a lot more health and wellness tips. So stay there. We'll be right back. Cheers.
Cheers.
In quiet markets, investors search for new trading opportunities. We'd like to introduce you to a new product that provides opportunities even in flat markets. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a new and innovative Chicago-based exchange registered with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their trading platform. Nadex never charges a fee to use their platform, which even includes real-time charts and full customization capability. Nadex's unique short-term binary options allow traders and investors to capitalize on strategies even when the underlying markets are quiet. Nadex's innovation has allowed them to come up with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com, or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy, a set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders, take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days unconditionally, so there's no risk to you other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage of TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can't use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living. We're here with Nico De Haan, who is, at 69 years old, the picture of health. And to me, an inspiration for people around the world. You know, I was just saying at the break that I know a lot of people, family members and friends who are in their late 60s, early 70s, who've had knee replacements, spine surgery, you know, who maybe inching toward the wheelchair, having difficulty walking, and look at you. I mean, in fact, in our exercise session this morning, you got down on the floor to demo something for me, and I thought to myself, can I even do that? Wow.
What were you doing, the roll around?
He had me going. We were sitting down.
With the feet.
Yeah,
putting
it was,
feet on each side.
It was really difficult.
It's something we do at jiu-jitsu to get your hips nice and loose.
Yeah, so you mentioned jiu-jitsu. Things changed for you when you found that.
Yeah, they changed. First of all, jiu-jitsu is one of the martial arts that when you are sparring, you can actually go full out. When you're doing karate or Muay Thai or all these other things, they're involved in smacking people, hitting people, punching, and kicking. And you, of course, when you're sparring, you can't do that.
Right.
You have to hold back.
Sure.
In jiu-jitsu, you're grappling, so you're holding people and pulling people, and you can go full out.
Right.
And we have a safety valve, which is called the tap.
Yeah.
So when you have too much, you tap, or somebody gets you in a compromised position where they're choking you, getting you on an arm bar or triangle, all these different maneuvers.
Sure.
That's the safety valve, and
Right.
And what we don't want to do, of course, is hurt each other. That's really important.
It's really a peaceful martial arts.
And, well, it's all defensive.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is stopping you from kicking our butt.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
That's
Right.
to put
Okay.
it mildly.
Right.
Yeah. So you can continue to live non-violently.
Yes. So I thought I was at 63 in decent shape. I knew I'd gained a few pounds because I had stopped running, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I've got to replace the running with something.
Right.
And I had a friend of mine Tom DeFiore, who does Pilates in my studio, and he had been doing jiu-jitsu for quite a few years. And so I thought, well, this is something I really want to do.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of judo when I was young. I did a little karate when I was in my 30s. Didn't like the karate that much, but I knew martial arts was really an important thing. Bruce Lee was one of my big inspirations of the things that he could do. So when I started, I thought I was going to die. And here I thought I was in pretty good shape.
Right.
So, the first time I came home, I was crawling out of my truck and into the house, and I was just totally wet and sweaty, and my wife looked at me and she said, nothing. Very smart girl.
Yeah.
So from then on, I just had to kind of talk myself into going for about the first year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then it started getting a little bit easier, and I started learning. It was very difficult for me in the beginning learning these things because
The
it's
techniques, you mean?
Yeah, because it's not instinctive. Most martial arts and punching and everything is kind of instinctive. You move in the right direction.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu is not that way. If you're moving in your instinctive way, you're moving in the wrong direction.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. As somebody who doesn't know it, you're all over them, and you can end the problem real fast.
Right.
So learning that part, it takes patience, but it's kind of like a chess game.
Sure.
Somebody does something, you counter it.
Exactly.
They do something else, you counter it.
Because it's a balance game, right?
It's a
balance and leverage.
Balance, leverage,
Yeah.
And it's inches make a big difference. And you put your hand here, it means one thing, you move it over, and now you got the guy. So it's that way. So, I progressed through the belt system, and just last year in April, just after the Pan Ams, I got my black belt, which...
Congratulations,
Each time you get a belt, it's kind of a shocker, and you don't feel like you're worthy, and then kind of you fit into it because
what is the boss called? The sensei?
professor.
The professor.
Yes.
Because you don't know when you're getting it. It's just when they think that you're ready for it, right?
Pretty much. There is a criteria of minimum attendance involved in it.
Okay.
But it's basically up to the professor, and especially a Professor Eduardo de Lima,
which is huge.
He's one of the 6 guys that came over to America from the Gracie family.
Okay.
And he's, if you mention Eduardo de Lima in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, everybody goes, oh, you're training under him.
Right.
That's
it's
awesome.
a big deal.
Yeah.
And I would never
That's
consider
like being under you in yoga.
Very much so.
No, that's like being under my teacher, Tommy Joyce, the guru of Ashtanga, but I get it.
It does hand down to that.
Seriously,
sure.
it's important to have a strong lineage, and that is a huge honor.
Yeah.
So 4.5 years it took you to get your black belt?
No, it took me 5.5.
5.5.
6 years. The normal number is 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time at it, so I was going 4 days, sometimes 5 days a week.
But again, it's so
And
impressive.
I think my age had something to do with it. I think he moved me up a little faster because of my age. And I was, of course, I'm fighting 20, 30, 40-year-olds.
Right.
A couple of 50-year-olds.
At 65.
And there's nobody in our dojo that's even in their 60s.
Right.
I think there's a couple of white belts that just came in that are 60s. So, and it's cool because now they come and shake my hands and say, I want to be like you.
Sure.
That's exactly what I was saying before the show. I want to be like Nico when I grow up. That's really a huge honor. And I saw on your website too, you won 2 golds in Miami. That's 2012. So you're actually traveling for competitions.
I was doing the Miami Open because it was close, and then the Pan Ams, which is a kind of international fair. It's one of the most prestigious and one of the largest. And so my professor and I had talked a few years back, and so this is my 4th trip out there. And 2 years ago, I won the gold. Last year, I won a silver. This year, I won silver in my division and silver in the absolute.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It was the thing about competing at black belt level. It's completely different, much more relaxed. The guys that you're fighting at my age, I think in the younger divisions is still, boom.
Yeah.
But in my age, the guy who I was fighting in my division came up to me. I'm your adversary. How you doing? Everything. We chatted, and he says, "Oh, look at those guys out there. They're 30. That means a lot to them. To us, we're just kind of nice, relaxed.
Yeah.
You win, I win. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And
Friendly competition.
Yeah. And he was competing for about 8 years.
So it's good that, again, it's never too late. And you talk a lot about that, finding your passion and, doing something that keeps you happy and keeps you motivated. And
well, that's the key to life, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you get many people who come to your personal training center, Performance, who are later in life and maybe kind of stuck?
Oh, sure.
How do you help
that's
them?
the reason they come to me is they're stuck.
Well, that's good. They take that step.
Yeah. They're everybody's searching for something. I have, Tom came to me, 10 years ago, 12
And
years
look
ago.
at Tom. He looks good.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I have 3 or 4 other guys that kind of buddies with, and they come to me, I just want to do the minimum. Some of them want to do over the top. I had a guy today that Bob came in while you were there. And he's doing so much activity. I said, maybe you should slow down a little bit. I told him, the first thing you need to do is talk about your diet. I says, there's where you make the switch. Then if you want to come and see me, maybe I can teach you some stretching, I can teach you some form, because he's so darn active. He's doing something 5-6 days a week, and sometimes twice a day.
Wow.
In my mind, that's too much.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to discourage him from doing stuff either. But I wanted to give him a little education, so we spent about 20 minutes together talking, and then I just said, go watch the show tonight.
Yeah.
Read some of the material on what I've given you as far as what the paleo diet, primal diet is all about. Because I think that's important to really. You need to really be comfortable with what you're eating. And you need to know that it gives you energy or it draws energy away from you. And that's something you can feel. I was telling Allie earlier, we have a little pill, maybe it's astragalus or something like that, and it's a small little pill like this, and inside it there is that flower of the astragalus.
What's an astragalus?
Astragalus is an immune system booster. It helps your immune system really rise to the occasion if you have a cold or something like that. And you take a couple of little pills a few times a day, and it really does make a difference. Now, if that little can make a difference, imagine 90% of your food. What does that do to you?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So,
such a good point.
Yeah, and you have to look at that. So food has a profound effect on your daily living. So that's the first step I would take in anything. Yeah, being active is important.
Of course, but if you had to say what percentage is exercise versus food for overall health, what would you say?
Food is 90%.
Wow.
I would say.
I think, we talk a lot about that on this show.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely believe that. And I even, in my own body, I feel like we're all our own best experiment. I can be exercising a lot and pushing myself and, being very, very active. But if my diet's not clean, my body changes the opposite way, not the way I want it to go. So
exercise and all the activities that you do make you who you are. Your diet makes you healthy. So if you're not healthy through diet, no matter what the exercise is, it's not going to do you. It may add stress to your life.
Right.
I know that probably the minimum requirement for exercise might be 20 minutes a day. It might be 2 hours a day, but that might be just a walk.
And now in that context, this is a great conversation, because in that context, that someone that is eating, and this is what we're going through the paleo, eating a lot of grains, they can be working out, and they still can't figure out, why can't I get where I want to get?
Yeah.
And that's pretty intense. And I haven't been able to, I've had folks turn around and I can see how they're working out, and I'm saying to myself, man, but of course we're being prejudiced, folks, because I don't eat grains either. Do you know what I mean? And I cheat sometimes on a pizza, but I can see it. I can see when people are working out, but yet they're still saying, man, why can't I get more weight off.
Totally.
Well, it doesn't make a difference if you eat grains once in a while. But you have to understand that grains are not food. It's not the plant. It's the reproductive parts of a plant. It's a seed.
Right.
You know how human beings protect their seed, or their organisms that produce the seed.
Right.
Plants do the same thing. They do it differently because it's readily available on the ground. So the seeds are protected, and they're in really hibernation. They're in suspended animation. There's chemicals that hold them there. It's not until the plant sprouts that all the wonderful life-giving things that happen.
Which totally makes sense.
It does.
That's
It
why
makes so much
wheatgrass
sense.
is so good.
It's
That's
totally.
right. It's the grass. And well, let's continue after the break.
Definitely.
I hear the music.
Yes, we're going to come back and talk more specifically about the lifestyle that Nico is an expert in, and that's the paleo way of living. So stay with us. We'll be back with lots more health tips from Nico De Haan. You're watching Mindful Living.
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at DirectionShares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor Foresight Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
I'm not going home.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, everybody. I'm here with Tom O'Brien, our host with the most, and our guest of the day, Nico De Haan. Now, Nico is an expert in the paleo lifestyle and is living the paleo lifestyle, has a show called Living the Primal Lifestyle here on TFNN. And if you have questions about the paleo lifestyle, now is the time to call and ask Nico at 877-927-6648. So for people who aren't familiar with what the paleo diet or way of eating is, in general, what is it?
Well, in general, they started looking at our ancestors for answers of how we actually evolved as human beings. So, you know, human beings in our present form have been around anywhere from 30,000 to maybe 200,000 years, maybe more. I don't know. I don't know if anybody really knows. But we know that at least a couple of 100,000 years we've been the human being, the Homo sapien type of.
Isn't it mind-blowing? You think like hundreds of thousands of years?
I know,
and
it
for
really is. It's hard to
majority
wrap
of
my
We're
mind around that.
raindrops.
And for the majority of that time, we were eating from a wild environment.
Okay.
So we weren't cultivating any animals,
Right.
domesticating them, when we weren't cultivating many plants. It was mostly going out there, hunting for things.
Right.
And I asked Don this morning when he came in, I said, so pretend you're out in the woods someplace, what would you now you have to get some food. There's no grocery stores. What would you do?
Yes.
He says, well, I probably look for a small animal of some sort, something I can catch.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's what our ancestors did. So our ancestors really were brought up on wild animals, and probably animals that are easy to catch, which means the grazing animals.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they're just hanging there grooving.
Yeah, well, we're certainly not going after the bear.
Ducks.
We're not going after the bear or the lion. We're going after the...
Yeah, no, I can see that. Oh, no.
And then we'd supplement that with some greens, things like that. Certainly, I don't think anybody was out there looking for seeds and said, let's take 1,000 seeds, grind them together, and make some bread.
Right.
Nobody was doing that.
Not even close.
And probably with plants, if you know anything about plants, you were probably very careful.
Yeah,
and you were probably mimicking some of the animals. So when you're looking at what the animals are eating, they're eating when the fresh greens come out, the little sprouts.
Right.
That's what they're eating. They're not bothering with the other stuff unless the sprouts aren't there.
Right.
And I know you've had several guests on there about sprouting and wheatgrass and all that stuff. And that is about 50 or 60 times more powerful than the plant itself.
Right.
So my thinking is, why eat the other stuff?
Right.
Why not just eat the sprouts? Just eat the real tops of the plants that all things are, and some of the roots have the same properties. And forget about the middle part.
Yes.
But my main meal is always around the protein, whether it's fish or fowl or beef or whatever it is, and it's a small amount.
Right.
It's maybe 20% of my diet is that little bit of protein, and what's attached to that is my fuel. My fuel is fat. Now, we've had a phobia here in the whole world, really.
Right.
But especially in America, that fat is no good. And this was, I can go into hours about why this happened, but it's a false premise. Because fat is really our fuel, and what we've done in the modern age is switch that for sugar. And everybody knows sugar is a poison.
Right.
But what most people don't know, that the foods that are like sugar are all your processed foods.
Right.
And the most processed food that we have on the planet always has been grains.
Can you explain, I don't mean to cut you off here, but I'd love the folks to understand how the fat is the fuel and what it does for our system.
Well, I had a guest on the show a couple of years back, Nora Gigatis, who wrote a beautiful book called Primal Body, Primal Mind.
Okay.
And she has this analogy. She said, when I was young, we used to have this potbelly stove in our house.
Okay.
So if you're going to feed that stove, then you want something to burn and burn for a long time, so you don't have to stand in front of it and feed it.
Right.
Okay. So if you're eating the typical American diet, you're throwing in there maybe some cereal in the morning, which is kind of like throwing paper on the fire.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. It burns fine. It's good fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what happens is you have to keep feeding it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you put maybe some vegetables in there, it's like throwing some twigs on there.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you're throwing alcohol in there, then it's kind of like putting gasoline on it. It burns fine, but it's gone in a few seconds.
Right.
Now, if you want to actually have a life, you take a big log and throw it on there.
Right.
That's the fat.
Right.
Okay, so that means you have plenty of fat, and there's a big misconception that if you eat fat, healthy fat, that it's going to cling to your body.
Right.
And the opposite is true. Because there's a whole mechanism that creates fat in our body, and that is a combination of carbohydrates mixed with insulin. And insulin is our body's kind of equilibrium. If you're getting too much sugar or too much fat, it goes in there and stops that.
Okay.
And puts it into storage, so it doesn't affect your body too much. So say you're eating some potato chips or something like that, your insulin spikes up, and now insulin is going to grab those molecules and shove them into your fat cells, so it gets rid of it because you can't possibly burn it fast enough. So that's how you accumulate fat. And while that's all going on, you're never burning fat because you're trying to get rid of that sugar, and that's burning too. And insulin also is stored as fat.
Yes.
Okay, so now if you're eating the type of diet that I'm on, so I'll have some bacon and eggs in the morning.
Yeah.
Plenty of fat in there.
Right.
The fat goes into my body and starts burning, opens up the cells, and the cells are saying, oh, this is really good. I'm going to use all this fuel, and any excess fat that's in there,
Yes.
I'm going to use it too. And the beautiful part is you don't get hungry.
Okay.
Because you're satisfied. The only reason you get hungry is you're dissatisfied with what you're eating.
Right.
So if you're hungry every 2 hours, you know you're eating the wrong food, because if I have a good breakfast, or even my bullet, Tiger Brew
Sure.
coffee with the nice fat in it,
Right.
I'm not going to be hungry for 4 to 6 hours, and I don't even think about it.
So now, our system is working on that fat to keep the fuel without pumping us up with sugar. So now explain processed foods, spikes in sugar, because the spikes in sugar,
Well,
people have a huge problem with it. And so explain how that works.
so what we're talking about processed foods is food that have been changed from its original form.
Okay.
Okay, grains being one of them.
Yes.
In the early 50s, they invented all the cornflakes and all that stuff.
Right. We
Yes.
talk a lot about that.
Yeah, and
how
that really
it's-
changed. And there's a big
a
motivation
box.
for people to use that stuff, because
Sure.
imagine a mother, and back in those days didn't work. What she did was cook for the family and take care of the household.
Sure.
So if she was making bacon and eggs, that would be a 2-hour event, getting
Yes.
all the kids and the husband fed and everything like that.
Sure.
Now, all of a sudden, the box of cornflakes comes in, she puts it in the middle of the table, she puts the milk down there, and she goes off and does her housework.
We'll get to go.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
for sure.
a great motivator.
Right.
And
Right.
even more of a motivator when she had to go out and work.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's how we got it started into this trap, and then of course the butter was replaced with margarine,
Which is plastic.
which
Yeah.
is basically and Crisco oil,
Right.
which was cottonseed oil,
Okay.
used for machinery.
Right.
And somebody tasted it
That's
one day
pretty
and said,
sick.
"This is
It
pretty."
is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even an edible plant, cottonseed oil. So Crisco, throw that stuff away.
Right.
But all these margarines and all these fake kind of fats, and all the vegetable fats, which are made from corn oil, soybean oil, rapeseed oil, which is called canola.
Yeah.
Those are all really bad fats. But if you go to natural fats, your body actually holds on to less fat because you're eating the fat.
So good fats would be
So
for
good
you.
fats, exactly.
Where are you getting those?
You're getting those from good animals that eat really good food, because if they're eating the same junk you are,
Yeah.
of course, then you're getting it twofold.
Right. You talk a lot about grass-fed. If you're eating animal protein, grass-fed.
It has to be grass-fed beef. It has to be chickens that are running around finding their own food, if possible. It has to be pigs that are eating chestnuts and acorns instead of grains.
Yes.
So you have to really talk to your farmer and find out where this food is, and it's hard to find these days.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is available.
Right.
Same with great eggs that are from chicken that roam around,
Right.
get the sunshine, so you get your vitamin D. So that's how we get all these good things from animals that are doing the paleo lifestyle
Sure.
in a sense.
Right.
The other things, the supplements, are the greens. And again, I stress the tops of the greens and the roots
Right.
of the greens, not so much the middle, and definitely no grains, because that's a waste of time.
Right.
I remember making, you ever remember making paper mache?
Yes.
What did they use?
Paper, right?
And?
Oh, flour.
Ah! There you go.
Yeah.
And what's flour made out of? Grains.
Right.
Yeah, and all
Right.
that sticky gluten.
Very sticky.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's glue.
That's what happens
Right.
when we eat
And that's
that.
what happens when we eat that.
Right.
So
Yes.
that binds up the whole system, and actually changes your whole flora in your gut.
Yeah.
Right.
So what Paige and I talk about on our show a lot is how to change that flora, which means you've got to eat probiotic type of food, which is all the tops of the plants.
Yeah.
Because they create the bacteria.
So the sprouts.
The sprouts, the really good stuff.
Where do you get your sprouts? Just do you at a grocery store? Do you order them online?
No, I get them at the grocery store. What I do is I take a lot of vegetables and take the tops of them.
Okay.
Yeah, or just buy sprouts, or sprout them at home. That's another
Did
way.
you see that wanted poster in Publix? They got a wanted poster now in Publix, folks. All their vegetables have no tops.
Who's taking the tops
Who's this
off?
guy?
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm taking all
He's
the
wearing
tops of
his
the
hood
plant.
in.
Well, I don't eat a lot of greens. I admit it. My diet is probably about 10% green.
Can you
And
explain
why
though? What I'd love you to explain is this. So we understand the paleo.
Yeah.
But if you can explain to the folks that people have a tough time. I have a tough time, and I've told you this before.
Yeah.
And I've been on this paleo for a long time. And I have a tough time explaining how the other foods spike your sugar, and that's why people can't understand. There's plenty of people that are eating great.
Yeah.
Okay? And they can't understand why they're heavy, why they're not feeling good. And so if you can explain that portion of what that sugar does to our systems with processed foods, and
Well,
not just, yes.
Yeah, it's carbohydrates.
Right.
So carbohydrates that are processed are the highest form of, sugar.
Okay.
In a sense. So a sugar cane is a grass seed. Wheat is a grass seed.
Okay.
Corn is a grass seed.
I see.
All these, rice is a grass seed. So they're all grass seeds.
They're seeds.
So
Right.
Sugar has much more of a sugar base to it,
Right.
but they're all basically the same. So
Okay.
now when we process these things and eat them, they really spike your insulin.
Right.
And the reason they spike your insulin is because they spike your blood sugar.
Right.
Okay. So your body has two things: the ketones or glucose. And the glucose, if it's too high of a level, your body goes into kind of a mode saying, I better counteract this. So
Yes.
it uses the insulin to do that.
Right.
And insulin is there as a safety valve.
Right.
But if you're using the safety valve 24 hours a day,
Right.
the safety valve is no good.
This is where it's coming in. That's the essence
Right.
of what's happening.
And this is eventually leading to diabetes, type 2 diabetes.
No doubt about it. You're in a diabetes mode. It's called metabolic syndrome. And there's various forms of this. But it's also that... I'm kind of losing the train of thought here. But so you're spiking your insulin, and your body... When the insulin is spiked, your body turns off your fat burning. So the
Right.
only thing that it can burn is the glucose or the sugar. Now, when the sugar is gone, because you can't tap into the fat that's in your body,
Yes.
you're hungry.
Right.
So now the cycle starts over. What are you going to eat? And you crave what you just eaten most of the time. And some of the grains, especially wheat and corn and soybeans, have a morphine-like enzyme in it that is just as powerful as a morphine. And
especially these food companies now, the Monsantos of the world and the Cardinals of the world. I mean,
so if you smell the bread,
they're creating things that are addicting.
80% of the corn sold right here at home
is GMO.
Genetically modified.
Yeah,
So
I would say it's even probably 100% or very close to that. But if you've ever, back in the 80s, there was this great video of Richard Pryor, and he had gotten off of the cocaine habit, and he did this whole monologue of saying he was hooked on coke and stuff like that, and he was smoking this freebase.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm going to quit it. No problem. I just take one toke. And he said he put the pipe away.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden he heard the voice saying, here I am.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that.
Right.
When you smell the bread, that's the same trigger.
Yeah.
There is no difference.
Wow.
Okay.
very
So that's
addictive.
why it's hard for many people.
Sure.
But it's only a 3-day to 2-week journey past that for most people.
Sure.
Some people have a harder time. Sometimes it can take a few. And also, while you're detoxing, you may feel miserable for a little while. That changes. And all of a sudden, you start getting that surge of real energy.
Isn't that interesting, just to pause and think that you could, you have to detox off the food you're eating.
Yeah.
The processed food and the sugar. Even too much fruit can
No doubt about
be
it.
too much
Because fruit,
sugar in somebody's
our
diet.
modern fruit has a lot of fructose in it. And fructose actually bypasses the system of the insulin. But there's another hormone that's called pectin. And that actually is the trigger that says you're hungry. And it disrupts that.
Right.
So what happens is if you have like a soft drink at McDonald's, that's especially a diet one,
Yes.
it triggers that, saying you're hungry over and over again. So you might have a 64-ounce and with a Big Mac, and as
my
soon as
God.
when you start drinking that Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, whatever it is, you're going to get signals that you're hungry again, even though you've filled your whole stomach with the 64 ounces of a drink and you've just had a Big Mac or whatever it is. You're still hungry, and you're going to have more.
You just brought up a great point. It's important for folks to understand that even when we're talking about eating meat, you shouldn't be eating McDonald's burgers.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big misconception to think that people who are on the paleo lifestyle go out and eat half a cow. If they,
No,
as
it's
you said, it's
actually,
20% of your diet. It's just a small...
Well, one of the things that I've been reading about for many years is calorie restriction being so good for you, and there's been many studies done on that.
Right.
And what happens when you're eating properly is that your meals go and shrink. I have a couple of eggs and a little sausage for breakfast, and then I'll have my Tiger Brew, and then I might have a whey shake, and then I won't eat till 6 o'clock till my wife gets home, and then we have a little pork chop or a little chicken wing, or we'll have a little beef, and it's a small portion, maybe 4 ounces, with a little bit of veggie on the side or a avocado or something. So our bill has actually shrunk over the last 6 years because we're eating smaller portions, and then we're not eating all that other stuff that we used to buy in bags and boxes and cans. We don't buy those anymore. So the only bill we really have is going to the health food store or going to our butcher that we know real well and get the food.
That's so great. And that's how, that would be a dream for everyone to move toward, is to not eat out of boxes or cans.
Yeah.
And it may seem daunting, but to take small steps toward that would be a huge win for everyone.
And I'll tell you, your kitchen changes. Now all of a sudden you got so much room for stuff. You know, our refrigerator looks half empty. You know, it's full of just everything we eat, and the rest of there's no boxes, nothing in there. You know, so I mean, we got all this kitchen. The kitchen actually could shrink if we wanted it to.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. I mean, you know, it is. It's. I think it does teach a lot of really helpful tips. You know, to one, eat natural whole foods, nothing that's processed, things that don't look like they do in nature.
Yeah.
And you know, you mentioned the sprouts, and we talk a lot about wheatgrass on the show, but just the most healthful food you can find.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking people who are vegetarians either, because I think our goal always is to eat really sustainable things, and to eat very fresh and local things. And if you're a vegetarian doing that, I would say that's probably very healthy. But if you're a vegetarian eating rice and grains, it's probably over the long haul, it's not going to do you as good as the natural type of diet that we were on. And some people do really well eating lots of vegetables and stuff. Some people do really well what I'm doing. Paige is kind of in the middle. She eats a lot more green than I do. I'm doing well with I am. And if I wasn't as active in jiu-jitsu, I may edge more towards the greens. I may need more of those. But I use my greens for detoxing because I think that's the original thing for fruits. Because if you're doing it seasonally, you're doing different things each month. And now your body's being flushed by those things. But if you're eating the same banana 360 days a week, that banana is just a piece of sugar for you.
Well, it gets interesting. So you only have 20%. I don't. I eat big steaks all the time. Okay? Yeah. Different ballgame.
To each their own. I guess you said everything
but
different.
Then I have the struggle. Okay, like last night, I'm looking. I love animals. I'm looking at this beautiful cow. I'm saying, man, I'm eating that guy, man. Right? No, I'm not kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I can relate.
Nico knows this. I've been a vegetarian twice in my life, so I go even headwise. I go back and forth. And I say, okay, because even when it's clean meat, I'm thinking, is there chemicals? What kind of chemicals are still in it? Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm just bringing this up in the context because I think all of us, you got to be cognizant of what you're eating, and who knows whether it'll change again.
There's a couple of things that mess it up. First of all, you have to increase your fat intake.
Right.
Okay. And the other thing is, what can skew the whole thing is alcohol.
Right.
So if you're on that daily diet, with a lot of my clients are, they have a glass of wine every night, that triggers your insulin again. It can. Doesn't necessarily have to. If you have a after dinner drink, not so much, but if you have it before dinner, it changes the whole thing. So those things can change it.
You mentioned, sorry to interrupt, the healthy fats. If you're not getting it from protein, animal protein, you talk a lot about coconut oil.
Yeah,
would that be another
frying
thing?
in coconut oil, taking a spoon or two a day of coconut oil, adding it into your coffee. There's a lot of ways of adding fat into it, and it gets pretty easy once you start doing that.
Wow.
We run out of time.
Oh my gosh. I know.
We need 2 hours.
Thank you so much for being here, Nico. For more information on Nico, go to livingaprimalifestyle.com. Join us next week on Mindful Living, Wednesday. Namaste.
Namaste, folks.
Namaste.
Have a great one.
Thank you.
This is TFNN.